Hey friends, welcome to another Dream Theater episode. Before we get started, if anybody is really into Dream Theater, I have a playlist that I will link below containing all of my Dream Theater related stuff, so please check it out if you're interested. Today we're going to be doing what I like to call Dream Theater epochs, or eras, however you want to say it. Basically, I like to overanalyze everything in my life, including the bands and the music that I listen to, so I already did an Opeth epoch series, and I will link that below as well. So today I'm going to do the Dream Theater career in terms of, taking every bit from their career and giving it a specific era name and a little bit of a reason as to why I've done that, okay? So we're going to start off with what I'm going to call prehistoric Dream Theater. This is basically just the 1989 album When Dream and Day Unite. This was Dream Theater's first album ever, and they had completely different members. You still had the core of John Mayung, John Petrucci, and Mike Portnoy, but you also had Kevin Moore on keyboards and Dominic, the fuck is his name? And you also had Charlie Dominici on vocals. Now, I personally like the album. It will never make, the top albums for me, but it is good. In fact, I like this album more than I like The Astonishing, and definitely more than I like the self-titled. You can really see the Rush influence in this album, and it's very inspiring for the time. Also, a kind of a Queensryche vibe as well, because Queensryche predates Dream Theater by a little bit. And Charlie Dominici himself did a fantastic job. I often wonder what Dream Theater would have turned into had he stayed. If you guys have any ideas of your own, would they have been better or worse? Leave it in the comments below. I'd be interested to know what you guys think as the viewers. So, the prehistoric timeline is just When Dream and Day Unite with Charlie Dominici. Okay, let's move to the next epoch here. I'm gonna call this the early years. And it's approximately from 1992 through 1997. So that includes Images and Words, Awake, Change of Seasons, EP, and of course Falling into Infinity. The first two I just mentioned, Images and Words and Awake, I think are everybody's top tier albums. Some of their greatest compositions are found on those albums. And of course it brings in James LaBrie on vocals. Obviously, some of the songs that make this era so great would be Metropolis, Learning to Live, Pull Me Under. Some stuff off of Awake would be 6 O'Clock and Erotomania. I really like Space Divest, too. I know that's probably not as popular, and then, of course, Change of Seasons was one of their greatest songs ever. And as we approach Falling into Infinity, things tend to get a little bit more commercial sounding. The production gets a little better, but it also becomes a little bit more commercial sounding, losing its baby face, so to speak. And you can tell that that album is kind of a transition away from the sound of Awake and Images and Words into more of the what would come next in Scenes from a Memory. So this would be the early years. All right, let's jump ahead to 1999 through 2009. I'm going to consider this to be the golden age of Dream Theater. Scenes from a Memory was kind of a continuation of the Metropolis idea, Metropolis being one of the great songs off Images and Words. It was a concept album. Scenes from a Memory was a concept album. And it's just chock full of greatness. The concept is great, the music is great, the guitar solos are great. There's some amazing drumming on it. My favorite song by Dream Theater, known as Home, is on that album. And it really sets the stage for Dream Theater on an upward trajectory. That brings us to the 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence album, which takes the sonic production of Scenes and makes it even better. It's post-2000. It's got a lot of energy. That brings us into Train of Thought, which is one of their heaviest albums, and as a result, one of my favorite albums. And then from there, we go to Octavarium, which heads into a little bit more of a proggy phase. It's kind of a callback to the earlier years. Production is still great, slightly commercialized, but overall still really good. And then that merges into Systematic Chaos, which I also love. A lot of great songs on that album. Very raw, in my opinion. In the Presence of Enemies being one of my absolute favorite songs as well. And then this kind of merges into Black Clouds and Silver Linings, which is not one of my favorite albums. I do love The Count of Tuscany, okay? So don't think that I'm stupid. That's a great song. But as an album as a whole, it just doesn't do it for me. And that's my opinion, and that's okay. You don't have by the time Black Clouds and Silver Linings shows up, in retrospect, Portnoy leaves and everything, and things kind of start to feel like they've kind of gone for full circle. It was kind of a great album for Portnoy to go out on. It didn't really leave you, at least for me, it didn't leave me feeling like I wanted more. It was like, okay, this is a good transition point. So now we're going to enter into what I'm calling the Mangini years, which, for obvious reasons, which we have Dramatic Turn of Events, The Astonishing, the self-titled, Distance Over Time, and then, of course, A View from the Top of the World. The Mangini years kind of cover a lot of bases. First and foremost, Mangini is a phenomenal person and an amazing drummer, and he was more than a suitable and adequate replacement for Mike Portnoy. I will eventually do a video on Mike Portnoy because I am absolutely obsessed with him. He's my favorite drummer of all time. But I just want to say, nothing wrong with Mangini, nothing but love. If anybody had to take that spot over, I'm glad it was him. And I don't think that... I think what makes Dream Theater awesome with Portnoy is not just his drumming, but it's what Mike Portnoy does behind the scenes that influences the band as a whole. I think that's really why Portnoy is loved so much. And he should be loved because he's the original drummer. He's one of the 3 founding members. So with that said, Mangini was great. And Dramatic Turn of Events was that segue album where Mangini didn't really have anything to do with the writing, but he did play the drum parts. So that still had some good material on it. They were still in the Portnoy frame of mind. By the time the self-titled and the Astonishing came around, I feel like they had an identity crisis and they just didn't know what they were doing anymore. They didn't know who they were. They were lost, but they didn't want to give up. And this is just my personal opinion. Distance Over Time was a surprising breath of fresh air. I think I like that album just slightly more than A View from the Top of the World. A View from the Top of the World hit me hard when it came out, and I was really into it, and I was really like, yes, Dream Theater is like finally coming back to their roots. But now that we're like 4 years removed from it, I think I like Distance Over Time better. It's held up better. It's just a better album. It's got all the perfect elements of Dream Theater. So the Mangini years were turbulent. They didn't know who they were. They didn't have the same vibe, but it is what it is. Thank God they stayed together because, all the greats that leave, they always come back, right? Bruce Dickinson came back to Maiden. Rob Halford came back to Priest. And I knew in my heart Mike would be back to Dream Theater, and he is. And so now we're entering what I'm going to consider the postmodern era, or postmodern epoch of Dream Theater. And that is simply just Parasomnia. And hopefully there's more. With most bands, like I honestly don't care if bands like Iron Maiden or Judas Priest or even Metallica ever release another album. I feel like those bands are just kind of like done, like just stop it already. But with Dream Theater, I'm like, yes, I want more. I want more. I don't even care if they write originals. Just put out entire albums of cover songs. They're amazing. Because I just love the style and the feel of Dream Theater. Dream Theater could play Twinkle Twinkle Little Star and add progressive elements to it, and it would be the greatest thing ever. So, let's recap on the epochs here. You have the prehistoric era, which encompasses When Dream and Day Unite. You have the early years, with Images and Words, Awake, Change of Seasons, and Falling into Infinity. Then you have the golden era, which is Scenes from a Memory, 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence, Train of Thought, Octavarium, Systematic Chaos, and then, of course, Black Clouds and Silver Linings, which you could feel like the transition was coming. Then you have the Mangini years with Dramatic Turn of Events, self-titled, Astonishing, Distance Over Time, View from the Top of the World, and then last but not least, the final era, the current era, and I hope it's not the final era, Parasomnia, which has been a great addition to the Dream Theater discography. I feel like 85% of the population would agree with me. It's a return to form. It's exactly what we needed and wanted. And if they were done now, I would be okay having that be the last album. But I hope and pray that there's more. These guys, most of them are not even in their 60s yet, and they're workhorses as it is. I think they'll keep going. We can pray, right? So if you guys are still here, please let me know below, which era or epoch do you prefer? I personally prefer the Golden Age. That run of albums was my favorite. I love the early years. I like the postmodern thing we got going now, but the Golden Age time period was great. So anyway, if you like this video and you're still here, please like the video, because that would be great. Subscribe if you haven't. Check out the playlist down below for more Dream Theater stuff. And as always, thank you guys for watching.